All right, so since we're talking about elections, let me tell you about the election that basically came down to one vote. The wildest in American history, in my opinion. This is not a scene from a movie. This is not a scene from a movie. Now, let me tell you why them folk looking like this. So these guys named Al Gore and George Bush were running for president of the United States. And they both had a problem. America was split right down the middle. Democrats, Al Gore, George Bush, Republicans. Now listen to this next part closely because they don't teach this a lot in school. In America, it is not just the person who gets the most votes wins. Absolutely not. We have something called the electoral college system, which basically means winner takes all. If 51% of Texans say Republican, every one of Texas' vote goes to Republicans, which is why someone like Donald Trump wouldn't come over to California because he knows that's chopped. In fact, someone like Kamala Harris wouldn't spend so much time in California either. She knows she got it in the bag. So they'll go over to the places that are 50-50. A big one being Florida. In fact, it was literally Florida's job to decide this election. Take a look at these two numbers up here. They're tied because there's something I forgot to tell you. You need 270 electoral college votes to become the president. Florida was going to push either one of these men to 270, but then they went down to Florida and they were basically tied again. So everyone was waiting for that 1% of people to decide the election. After it came in, they said, Al Gore wins. Everybody said, oh my God, that's so beautiful. They said, we just playing. George Bush wins, I think. Al Gore comes in and said, boy, did I win or not? They said, first of all, you're not president yet. Watch your tone. Second of all, I said Bush wins, I think. So Al Gore gets ready to congratulate George Bush and make a speech saying, hey, I lost and all that. His campaign manager said, come here, stupid. You lost by 900 votes. Here's where it starts to get wicked. 900 out of 6 million people. That's 0.01%. They said, you need to recount the votes, Florida. Florida said, absolutely. Let me get started right now. That's a lot of votes, though. Enter the Secretary of State of Florida, Catherine, who got famous from this whole election thing. She said, that is a lot of votes. Now, it's important to note, she's a Republican that worked on George Bush's campaign. She said, George Bush won? Y'all only got a few days to count the vote. Al Gore came and said, a few days to count millions of votes? Are you stupid? She said, I know you are, but what am I? Al said. Okay, so we're only asking for 4 counties. Listen closely. Al Gore was only asking for 4 counties to be recounted because those were the most important ones to decide the election. It wasn't realistic to count all Florida's 6 million votes. The Supreme Court of Florida said, Catherine, come on. You got to give them a few more days. We're going to give them a few more days. Okay, the county said, let's do it. They started counting. Remember, 4 counties. One of the counties said, count it. Another county said, count it. It looks like instead of 900 votes Al Gore was losing by, he's losing by 500. Catherine said, what the other county say? The other county said, we Florida, baby. One of the counties said, we not doing it. It's gonna take two, we not doing it. Everyone in America looked at the county, they're like, yo, you need to count those votes. They said, you gonna hit me? No. And the other county turned in their votes a little too late. So they said, okay, George Bush wins by 500 votes. Al Gore said, bro, y'all need to run that. Y'all need to count again. Stop playing with me. First, Big Al loses by 900. Now Big Al loses by 500. How that make sense? Count again. They said, all right, you got it. That does make sense. But here's where it starts to get wickeder. Florida gets exposed. Since they had to count again, they started looking into how Florida counted its votes in the first place. And it was bad. Duplicate votes, thrown away votes. They couldn't read it from this little machine. Threw away 30,000. Votes from people overseas that lived in Florida. I mean, I didn't count this one in time. Just throw it away. But most importantly, black voters. An overwhelming majority in favor of Al Gore. 10,000 votes thrown away. Why? Because they were called felons. Apparently their system confused thousands of black people as felons, so they just didn't count their votes. Along with so many other mistakes, America was shocked. So the U.S. Supreme Court had to step in. But at first, they didn't want to step in. They're like, we don't know. Florida Supreme Court said, big bro, we was already handling it. U.S. Supreme Court said, we may not know, but that's going to be better than you. Go stand over there. And their decision shocks the world. They say, stop the recount. Bush wins. But they came to this decision by 1 vote. 5 Republican Supreme Court members said, stop the recount. 4 said, bro, y'all gotta recount the votes. But many people believed that Al Gore was looking like he was gonna win if they recounted it. But here was the Supreme Court's argument. They basically said, Florida's system is so jacked that we'd have to fix it to recount the vote. And as we've seen from how jacked it is, we need to count everyone's votes in Florida, not just those 4 counties. We don't got the time. So we just gonna say, screw it, Bush wins. People all over were like, nah. Supreme Court was like, what you gonna do about it? Al Gore said, calm, still, calm. George Bush, you got it. I lost. You got it. Bush said, appreciate you. Now, what them folk in Iraq doing? And well, that's your system in a nutshell. I hope you learned a little more about it. Even though more people voted for Al Gore, he technically lost in the Electoral College, so George Bush becomes president. And I want you to pay special attention to the power balances we just talked about. In regards to Trump and Harris, I need you to really listen for this part. Donald Trump did not give you money during the pandemic. Another system of government did that. Remember when George Bush won at first, and then another system of government, the Supreme Court had to step in and say, wait, we have to double check? Remember when Donald Trump last election said, no, I beat Joe Biden, and another system of government had to step in and say, no, you didn't. You need to learn how your system of government works if you want to change it. I personally think schools don't really teach it like that because it's in America's best interest for you not to know, but that's a story for another day. Because when you learn that, you'll realize how important your state elections are. Yeah, this is important, but what happens in your state, the laws in your state will completely change the country. And red, you've been conned, you've been fooled. Donald Trump just copied Ronald Reagan's strategy down to the slogan. So tax breaks for the rich, more taxes for the poor. And he did it masterfully. Y'all know he's a businessman. What do businessmen do? Make money for you or make money for them? It's donezo. That being said, for anybody who voted Donald Trump, you don't have to believe me now. I'll just see you in 4 years.